How's it going, you guys? Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Mike, and welcome to Making the Grade. This is the first ever episode that I am doing, and want to thank you so much for embarking on this journey with me. Today, we will be reviewing A Quiet Place, using various filmmaking techniques and giving them a grade based on a rubric just like this. So, without further ado, let's get into it. A Quiet Place had a budget of about $17 million. Its opening weekend grossed just over $50 million. Right off the bat, what we can tell is that this movie was a success financially, 100%, and by most studio standards, this film would get greenlit almost immediately. Now, let me talk about the marketing aspect of this film relatively quickly. Their social media campaign really didn't truly do anything groundbreaking. It ran a relatively standard campaign with teasing clips and engaging content, but there was real no engagement between the media account and the general fan base. I think that a campaign that was more interactive with their followers might get an edge in this category for me, so I don't see anything special there. What I did find interesting about the posters, though, was that A Quiet Place posters mostly featured Emily Blunt's character. Now, the first one had her truly cloaked in red and had her covering her mouth with tears running down her face. So right off the bat, you also saw, if they hear you, they hunt you. So you know that if she makes a noise, something's going to get her. And she's obviously covering her mouth because she's in some kind of anguish. We don't know what it truly is. The second poster takes away that red wash that's all over it and has pretty much the same tone. So there's really not much to dissect there. But the final poster that we see when the movie finally comes out is Emily Blunt's character in a bathtub, and she is no longer covering her mouth. Either she's in too much anguish and she can't, or she just doesn't care because she's in so much pain. And you see a shadow of a monster outside the door. So we can see that this is going to be a thriller movie, and I like the nice reverse from the first two of the last poster. Now, the trailers, pretty standard, run-of-the-mill distribution time for the trailers. They were all very eerie. They don't really get much into the plot of it. You know there's mounting tension between some kind of creature. There's something going to happen if they make noise, and that's the central theme throughout all of them. So out of the marketing campaign for this movie, I would give it a 3 out of 5. The visuals for A Quiet Place were done quite well. I give it a 4 out of 5. The camera work and choices of the shots are great. One of the most memorable ones that I remember from it was when he lights a fire on top of the corn silo. And then you get to see this nice panning shot of the area that he lives in the habitat is not truly alone. There's actually people that are living around them because they also light fires as well. It's one of the best shots that I can see that was of an outside landscape part. And one of the best shots that I have that was indoors was when John Krasinski's character is with Emily Blunt. They put one headphone in each ear and they begin to dance to that very sad and symbolic song. So I give the visuals in this film a 4 out of 5. Now we move on to the lighting in this film, and I give this film's lighting a 5 out of 5. Throughout the film, I never truly had an issue with the lighting in an overall scheme, and one of the best uses that I saw of it was during the scene where Emily Blunt's character's water breaks, and the outside light goes right onto the area where her water breaks. And that is just a great use of lighting that you won't pick up unless you see the film more than one time, which I've actually seen the film 3 times. Now we move on to score, and for A Quiet Place, I give the score a 3 out of 5. There's nothing really spectacular in this film about the score. It's pretty run-of-the-mill for a horror movie. I kind of found it a little redundant. You get those beats of eerie, piano-y, guitar-y, screeching all over the place. But there's nothing really spectacular here. It's what you would expect for a horror movie. Since it's run-of-the-mill, I give it an average 3 out of 5 on my scale. Now we move on to sound mixing, and I thought the sound mixing in this movie was done very well. There's times where I felt like there could have been some extra sounds added, but I think that they stylistically chose not to keep them in because the characters had to stay quiet throughout the piece. The one that bothered me the most was There was one part where Emily Blunt's character is by the stairs, and she's cowering from the monster. It takes a wrong step and goes the other way. She goes up the stairs, there's no noise made, and then the monster slowly grazes the banister that she was holding, and it makes the most ridiculous noise. And I found that just a little too unbelievable for me. I think the sound mixing should be consistent throughout the piece, and if you're going to have a noise being made because the monster doesn't have to be quiet, but a sound not being made because Emily Blunt's character has to be quiet, breaks a little bit of continuity for me, but overall it wasn't the biggest thing to get over. I give it a 4 out of 5. It was done quite well throughout the whole piece. Now we'll move on to editing and the overall pace of the film. There's going to be no surprise here. I gave it a 5 out of 5. The editing of this film was very superb. I felt like there was never a point where I was screaming, cut, go to another angle, go. And that's just the best thing that you can ask for anytime that you're watching a movie. That's actually pretty hard for me not to be doing to a piece. So, very good job, John Krasinski and crew. The overall pace of the film also felt just right and on point. That's why I give it a 5 out of 5. Great job. Now we move on to set design, and I'm giving this another 5 out of 5. The intricate details from the felt pieces being used on the Monopoly board to the Shakespeare quote during the homeschooling scene with Emily Blunt's character and the younger son. It's just great nonverbal storytelling and great symbolic messaging without being in your face and having the characters actually spell it out. Truly wonderful, and I didn't catch that Shakespeare part until I saw it the third time. In the comment section, let me know if you guys spotted that before I did in my third attempt. From there, we move on to acting, and as no surprise to any of you who have watched this film, it's going to be a 5 out of 5. The fantastic job by Emily Blunt and John Krasinski is equally matched by the younger actors and actresses in this piece in Millicent Simmons and Noah Jupe. They are just wonderfully balanced, and they all play so greatly off each other. There's no way you can give them anything lower than a 5 out of 5. Now we move on to probably the most controversial part of this, and it's going to be the script. Don't get me wrong, I thought the script was fantastic, but I thought there were far too many plot holes that could have been simply avoided with less than a minute of visuals or added scenes. And that is, how does the power in the house work? Is it a generator? Because we don't see one. Is it solar panels? I wish it was, but we still don't see them. And if we are truly in this hysteria of noise is going to trigger these things into hunting and trying to stop the noise, then how is there still power being supplied to the house? It's just one question that gives me the most unsettling feeling about the piece. And that is truly all I can say about that. Another thing is, what was the plan for her going through labor? Now, there had to have been a timeline. We knew from when she circled that date on the calendar that her due date was within a week or two. So there should have been some more precautions probably set. And that's okay, because that could just be a flaw in the characters of the script. So I don't have that much of a gripe on that one as much as the power situation. But when you also think of, wow, they can make a lot of noise by the water. Why don't they slowly try to relocate themselves to the water? They've been living in this horrible situation for over a year and a half, and they haven't thought to move themselves to the water so they can make a little bit of noise and be able to communicate with themselves a little better. Just a little too plot holy for me. I have to give it a 3 out of 5, and it pains me. I don't want to do that. I give the script a 3 out of 5 though. It needs improvements, and that is something that could be easily worked out in a workshop of the script that they just chose to neglect, and that pains me. It really does. We're going to wrap it up here with costume and makeup. I'm giving it a 3 out of 5 as well. Simply put, the costume and makeup in the piece were pretty run-of-the-mill for what you would expect in this situation and period of time. There's nothing really special. They're all believable. Nothing really bad, but nothing also really spectacular. So it gets a run-of-the-mill grade of 3 out of 5. When it's all said and done, A Quiet Place lands with an 80 on the Making the Grade scale, suffering mostly from a lackluster score and a not-so-effective marketing campaign. Now, the story and script wasn't the biggest problem, but the 3 out of 5 did kind of hurt A Quiet Place. I do want to point out that since we're doing a school-like setting review style, we're going to be giving 5 extra credit points at the maximum for rewatchability. And I felt like Rewatchability value out of this movie was at a very high level. I went 3 times to see this movie and never felt like it was a laboring task. I loved every single second of it, and I would give this a 4 out of 5 for rewatchability, giving it a final score of 84 on the Making the Grade scale. You guys in the comment section, let me know what you would rate this movie on a scale of 1 to 100, and please follow me on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. Links in the description below. You have a wonderful day and stay beautiful, guys.